Hello everyone, we will begin our studies in A&P with the endocrine system. Along with the nervous system, these two systems regulate all of the cells of the body to maintain homeostasis. The two systems work in tandem, but they differ in how they accomplish their tasks. Let's take a look at this table. It's a very good synopsis of how these two systems compare. This table compares how each system communicates with its target cells, how its message is transported to the target cell, the specificity of the effects, the speed at which the cells respond, the after effects of the stimulus, and the long-term effects, if any. Last semester we learned that a nerve impulse or action potential travels along an axon to the axon terminals. At the terminal, neurotransmitters are released into the synaptic cleft, and across the cleft are the target cells, where the neurotransmitter will have its effect on the cell membrane. Now, this effect is very quick, it's local, and it's short-lived. Within endocrine tissue, endocrine cells release hormones that are released into the bloodstream, and they are spread throughout the body. And the target cells that contain specific receptors for that hormone will be the ones affected by that hormone. The distribution of hormones is widespread, although only target cells will respond. The effect is slower and more long-lasting. Now let's take a look at some of the specifics regarding hormones and their receptors. There are basically three types of hormones based on their chemistry. There are the steroid hormones, the peptide hormones, and the monoamines. Steroid hormones are lipid-soluble, whereas the peptide hormones and the monoamines are water-soluble. So why is the solubility of a hormone important? Well, the solubility determines how hormones are transported in the blood and also what their mode of action is at their target cells. Let us take a look at how solubility determines how a hormone interacts with its target cell. Recall from A&P 1 that cell membranes are impermeable to water-soluble or polar molecules. Therefore, they cannot enter the cell. The majority of water-soluble hormones bind to receptors in the cell membrane and activate a second messenger system. Please be sure to watch the video regarding the second messenger system known as the cyclic A&P signaling mechanism. Lipid-soluble hormones enter the target cell, bind to and activate intracellular receptors, and this complex enters the nucleus to bind to DNA, turning on specific genes. Now that you know a little bit about how the endocrine system works, we will look at two specific hormone-producing structures. You could say that it all starts at the hypothalamus, and that would be an accurate statement. But keep in mind that this system is an extremely intricate web of feedback mechanisms that is self-sustaining and self-monitoring. It certainly is one of the many wonders of the body, and it is functioning 24/7 and on a continual basis, without even a hint that it is at work until something is thrown off. Endocrine abnormalities are some of the most challenging and intriguing clinical presentations. The hypothalamus makes up the floor of the third ventricle and has many neurological as well as endocrine functions. The hypothalamus is in charge of all of the autonomic nervous system and all metabolic functions, and is where the nervous system and the endocrine systems meet. If the hypothalamus is the commander-in-chief of the endocrine system, then the pituitary is the Secretary of State carrying out its orders, and they are in direct contact with each other. The hypothalamus produces 8 hormones. 6 of these are regulatory hormones that control the anterior pituitary. 4 of these are releasing and 2 are inhibiting. The hypothalamus also produces 2 hormones that are stored in and released by the posterior pituitary. Anatomically and functionally, the pituitary gland is 2 distinct and separate glands. The posterior pituitary is an outgrowth of the hypothalamus, therefore it is neural tissue, whereas the anterior pituitary is derived from the oral mucosa and is epithelial tissue, making it a true endocrine gland. Focusing on the posterior pituitary, First, we see that it is connected to the hypothalamus by a stalk. This stalk is called the infundibulum, and the posterior pituitary, along with the infundibulum, constitutes the neurohypophysis. Connecting the hypothalamus to the posterior pituitary are the hypothalamic hypophyseal tracts, and it's at the axon terminals of these tracts that the two hormones, oxytocin and ADH, are stored and released from. The anterior pituitary is connected to the hypothalamus through a circulatory portal system called the hypophyseal portal system. The hypothalamic regulatory hormones will travel through this portal system to the anterior pituitary, either stimulating or inhibiting the release of anterior pituitary hormones. Let's take a look now at the pituitary hormones and their target organs. And that'll be it for this video.